morning. It's 8 minutes after 10 o'clock on a Friday. That means it's time for the Real Estate Fix with Rich. I'm your host, Rich Szerman. That's why we call it the Real Estate Fix with Rich, because I like hearing my name more than once, I guess. I don't know. You're listening to KHTS 98.1 FM, AM 1220. And thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to talk about all things real estate today, and today we're going to focus mostly on kind of year-end wrap-up stuff because it's been, oh boys, it's been an interesting year in real estate, that's for sure, especially on the residential side. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what's gone on in the year, just to kind of give you a little wrap-up, because the reason for that is so we know what's happening going forward. Hard to tell where you're going if you don't know where you've been, as the story goes. So first of all, let's get into some of the numbers. I like to pull these numbers that come out once a month from the Southland Regional Association of Realtors. It's a local board of realtors, of which I'm a member and have been for 30 some odd years. Good group. They put out really good data. But there is a trick in some of the real estate data that you look at, and you always want to kind of pay attention to, well, not just where the data comes from. You should always consider your source whenever you're looking at data, but in addition to kind of how the data gets related. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Just going over this one number, in November of 2023, the latest month we have numbers for. I'll bring you the December numbers in January, as I always do. November 2023, the median home sales in Santa Clarita, this is condos and townhomes and houses combined, is up 3% year over year. That sounds pretty good, 3%. Nice healthy growth rate for a month, that's okay. So we're up 3% from last year, so over 12 months it's gone up 3%. But here's the thing. What it's not dictating, what's not telling you here is that it is a 3% year over year, and that number is accurate. But what it's not telling you is where it is compared to October. See, the October number, which was 798,000, which is also up 11% year over year, which sounds great. But now we're to 755. So what that means is in the last 30 days, on average, the sales prices of properties in the Santa Clarita Valley has gone down $43,000. It was 798. Just go over this again. It was 798 in October of 2023, and it's 755 now. Now that's the average. Every house is different. That's everything. That's literally every single family home, condo, townhouse, etc. Everything that's not commercial. So that's pretty wide swath. But yeah, we're down $43,000 in the last 30 days on the average median sale price. Now you dive a little deeper into that. If you take a look at the median home prices in the Santa Clarita Valley, last month in October, the average sales price was $850, up 6% year over year. The median sales price in November of 2023 is $805. Now that's up 2% year over year, but it's still down $45,000. So in a month, the average has dropped from $850 for a single family home in Santa Clarita to $805. Now that is pronounced. Now it's one thing to say that we're at $805 and it's up 2% year over year, but it's another thing to say that we're down $45,000 on average in the last 30 days. Now I don't think you need to run for the hills or go sell your house this minute because you're worried about the drop off in cost or drop off in price rather, but it is an indicator. This is a frozen market and the ice is beginning to thaw. It just is. The market is starting to come back to life, thank goodness, because the last 8 months, I don't know about for you, anybody listening, but for me, it's been awful. Because while the prices have been okay, the volumes have been way, way, way down. We're down nearly 40%. And I keep saying this every couple of weeks. We come back to this. Whatever your job is, whatever you do for a living, whatever your friends, family, neighbors, relatives do for a living, imagine what would happen if 40% of their business, whatever it is, just went away. Heck, if McDonald's on Bouquet sold 40% fewer hamburgers, they'd have a problem. So that's kind of what's going on. Now, the good news is it's starting to thaw out and it's getting a little better, and it also is bringing the price down, which is what the Fed was really after. So let's go condominiums. So condominiums, the average sales price in October in Santa Clarita, condominium and townhome, was $567, which is up 9% year over year. Sounds good. The average sales price in November is $515, up 8% year over year, but down $52,000 from October. So let's go over these again. So the average is down in Santa Clarita, $43,000 in the last month. The average median home sales price is down $45,000 in the last month. And the average condo sales price is down $52,000 in the last month. That's a lot. And when you're looking at those November numbers, those are sales that typically happen in October. They're getting recorded in November because you do a deal in January, it records in February. Typically it's about a 30-day escrow for most deals. And when it records is when they pick up the data. So always keep that in mind. The data is always about 30 to 45 days out of date as far as the actual market is going on. But those are big, big numbers. A $43,000 average drop over 30 days is a ton. Now, there's some other good news. There's some good news in the market, though. And I think that's good news, actually, because the prices do need to deflate a little bit. And it's an incentive to get the interest rate. As I've been telling you guys for this for months, prices have been dropping all over the country. We have not been hit in Southern California by price drops. Now we're starting to see them. It's just that simple. We tend to go last when it comes to stuff like this because people want to live here. They just do. And there's still limited inventory. So there's still not a whole lot of houses on the market, not a whole lot of choice out there, which also affects these numbers because there's so few that have sold. So last month, there were 126 sales in the Santa Clarita Valley. This month, there are 121, so pretty stable. Last month, there were 370 active listings. This month, 387. Now, by the way, that number of active listings, houses available, is down 32% year over year. So we're still way off. And last month, it was down 43%. So we are way, way off. We're still about 40% off. New listings, and this is the biggest number, there were 196 in November. There were 230 in October. So we're down 17% compared to last year. But last year was kind of a weird year as well. So 196 new listings, 387 total active listings. That's everything: condo, townhouse, house, ranch, farm, etc. 121 pending sales versus 126 pending sales last month. So that's it. The other indicator you're starting to see is my house is on the market a little bit longer. Last month in October, average days on market was 11. Now, average days on market, 23. So it's starting to go up. It just is. And that's not a big deal. 23 days on the market is no big thing. An average number is usually about 90 days. That's what it really should be in a stable market. So these houses are still selling, and they're still selling quickly. If you price it right, it's going to go. But prices are beginning to fall. So you're going to start to see that across the market. You're going to start to see more and more correction in our area. That's the Santa Clarita Valley. And to look at the San Fernando Valley, because it's a much larger area, obviously, about 10 times the amount of people living in the San Fernando Valley versus the Santa Clarita Valley. And so the number of sales is much larger as well. So it's a larger pool to come from. Those numbers tend to be a bit more stable, and you need to pay attention to those numbers if you're looking at real estate, because as goes in the San Fernando Valley goes here, the biggest difference is there's a lot more variety there. It's just a larger place. There's a lot more to pull from. I mean, on average right now, there's 1,553 active listings as of November in the San Fernando Valley. Whereas we just talked about in the Santa Clarita Valley, that number is 387. So there's a big, big difference between those two. So the San Fernando Valley, obviously much larger, much more real estate going on. But same thing applies. The average sales price in the San Fernando Valley overall is $906,000 in the month of November. That's down $7,000 from the month of October, so not as much of a shift for them. The medium single family home sales price in October was $1,015,000. Right now, it's $1 million even. Now, $1 million even is still 11% up year over year from November of last year, but it's down $15,000 from just the last month on average. Condo sale prices, same story. $598 last month, $590 this month, down $8K. Still up 8% year over year, but down $8K versus last month. And I think at this point, where it's far more valuable to look at the average sales price last month and last 30 days versus the year over year. Yes, property is more expensive this year than it was last year. Okay, fine. How much is interesting? It's informative. It's good. But really, if you're looking to buy or sell a house, the number you want to pay the most attention to right now is the difference in what was it last month versus what was it this month. Last month in the San Fernando Valley, 913 new listings. This month, 776 new listings. Active listings in the San Fernando Valley, last month, 1,494. This month, or I should more accurately, October versus November, so November, is 1,553. So the number of listings is creeping up a tiny, tiny bit. Number of pending sales, 417 in October in San Fernando Valley, 400 in November. So you're starting to see the number of pending sales starting to come down just a tad. Part of that's seasonal. You're starting to see the number of active listings starting to come up just a tad. That might be seasonal a little bit as well. But overall, what you're starting to see is the prices relax. So what's happening essentially is, to give you the summary here, is more property is finally coming to the market than has been. So we're still very restricted, still don't have a lot of stuff on the market, but there's more stuff starting to come to market. And the numbers are starting to go down because the interest rate has gone up, and the buyers that were out there, they're willing to spend 7.5%, 8% and pay top dollar for a house are gone. And if they're not gone, they're going away soon. So we are starting to see how prices correct. That's just kind of where we're at with it. It's important you guys know that, and that's a good thing. Believe it or not, I know that might not be great if you're looking to sell a house in the next couple of months, but just be aware that kind of correction is good for the market. It's healthy for the market. Now, if we could just see the Fed bring the interest rate down, which may be happening as well, then we'll have ourselves a ball game. Then we'll be in really good shape. Pardon me. Then we'll be in really, really good shape. So that's kind of where we're at now. That's October versus November. You're going to see the same trend in December as well. When I have the December numbers, which will come out in the first week of January, I'll bring them to you. Those numbers are going to be following the same trend. We're going to see the average numbers dropping a little bit as far as home sales, as far as price. We're still going to be down volume, but not as bad. So things are, starting to defrost a little bit. The freeze is finally starting to come to an end, which I don't know about you, but I'll speak for myself and everybody in real estate and say, thank goodness, because, oh boy. I have not enjoyed without my desire to do so, being able to take as much time off as I've taken this last year, excuse me. I would have liked to have been working harder. Although I still work hard anyway, because I still love all the pro bono stuff that we do, all the free stuff that we do. But anyway, so let's take a look back at the year in 2023 in general. We want to take a look back at the year because if you don't know what's going on, you don't know where you're going. You don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. And the first thing I want to talk about is realtors, since we've been kind of on that. So, as I am one. The state of realtors in 2023, according to Real Trends, which is a website that, if you're a realtor, you should be watching. It's one of several, along with First Tuesday and a few others that are very, very good for data. Some stuff I look at pretty religiously. According to Real Trends, 60,000 realtors, this is national, 60,000 realtors have left the business in the first half of 2023. NAR, the National Association of Realtors, a group which I've been a proud member for over 30 years, they expect that by the end of 2023, approximately 10 to 15% of its overall membership, approximately 130,000 realtors, will leave the business. That's a lot. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you got to kind of prune the tree to get it to grow better, and I think that's not necessarily unhealthy either, because we've had, frankly, too many realtors in the business. There are just too many people with real estate licenses. I use this all the time because I think it's a cutesy little thing. But the most popular license in the state of California is, for those of you not answering, driver's license. And you all just went, oh yeah, of course, driver, because it's so ubiquitous, you're just used to it, right? The most popular license in the state of California is a driver's license. You know what number 2 is? Realtors. Licensed realtors. And this is what I love to kind of bring the bit home. Number 3, licensed pets. There are more licensed realtors than there are licensed dogs running around the state of California. So as you go home tonight and you take a look around and you're thinking about now how many dogs you have and how many dogs your neighbors and the people on your block have, you probably still got more realtors than you got dogs. I don't know what that says about realtors, except that I like dogs. I don't think there are too many dogs. I'd like more dogs. But I think there may be too many realtors. Maybe that's just me. Yeah. Driver's license number 1, realtors number 2, dogs number 3, and fishing is number 4, I believe, as far as licenses given out by the state of California. So yeah, more realtors in this state than there are licensed dogs or people who fish. So, but there'll be fewer of them. There are fewer of them now, and there'll be fewer of them by the end of the year, according to NAR, and I think they're going to be right about this since they pay attention to their dues-paying base, as they are a trade union. So, total drop in realtors because of the 2008-2009 crash, in other words, the Armageddon that was the worst it could possibly be, was approximately 11% of NAR's membership. So 2008-2009, the great financial crisis, disaster on every front, bank failures on every front, and yet it only went down 11%. This year, coming out of the pandemic, and that is really what we're dealing with. This is still a pandemic economy as far as real estate is concerned anyway. We're going to lose 10 to 15%. So about as bad as far as the amount of realtors we're going to lose. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because the professionals and the people who do this all day, every day, and who have for any time, like myself, they're going to be around. We're not going anywhere. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm not really trained to do a whole lot else. So I kind of need to hang in here. Plus, what I do is a little bit different. All the stuff that we do with the rental rebate program, where we give money to buy people to buy houses, the resale renovation program, where we give people money to fix up their houses for sale, and then of course the foreclosure prevention work we do. It keeps us pretty busy because we follow a pay-it-forward business model at my office. So we give away a lot of money, we make a lot of money, we give away a lot of money. That's just kind of the way it works. It works well for us. We're able to help a lot of people. So let's take a look back at the market in general. So that's realtors. So again, I've been saying this the last several weeks as well, several months as well. If you know a realtor, you know somebody in real estate, you know somebody who works in title, you know somebody who works in escrow, appraisers, you name it, anything that's real estate, residential real estate attached, give them a hug, buy them a cup of coffee, because boy, we need a good Christmas this year, because we are all hurting, and that is just the reality. Now, let's talk about the market in general. According to Realtor.com, December 11th story, the story is the year in real estate is the year that the housing market froze over, because that is for sure what it is. So this year will go down in history as one in which the housing market came to a standstill, a horrible, depressing, no good standstill dominated by extremes that paralyzed the market. As 2023 comes to a close, we wanted to look back at this year in real estate extremes. High home prices and mortgage rates led to few homes going on the market and even fewer sales. Buyers couldn't afford to buy, sellers can't afford to sell, and everyone was frustrated. So the big question is, what went wrong? And before we get too far into that, and I'm going to leave this with a happy note. There's good stuff happening. I'm just trying to get you through the worst of 2023 so we can talk about 2024, which looks to be far more positive than 2023 was looking. But I will simply tell you this, and this is the big number that I've been repeating like it's a mantra since I heard it about 6 months ago. 70% of every single mortgage in the United States, that means everybody's got a loan on a house, according to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, is under 4%, 4% or under. 70%, which is a good thing for the U.S. population. It's a good thing for me. I've got a mortgage rate under 4%. I'm sure lots of you out there listening do. Now it gets worse. If you take that number up another 15%, 85% of every single home in the United States that has a mortgage, according to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, is under 5%. So that means 85% of the mortgages in the United States right now are under 5%. And when the going rate is 7.25, now it went back up a little bit this week, just a tiny bit, not enough to write home about, and it had gone down for the last 5 weeks consistently ahead of that. So the mortgage rate is starting to come down a little bit. We're going to talk about that before the end of the show. But there's a lot of good stuff happening. You just got to be aware that this is the market we're into. It's harder to get sellers to sell because they got great interest rates and they don't want to, and who can blame them? And it's harder to get buyers to buy because the interest rate's so high. That is the predominant story for the year. But so it's a bit of a mess. So these are just a few of the headlines that ended 2023. And I like to read headlines to you guys because so many people don't read the articles these days, and the headlines do tell the story. So here's a couple of headlines. High mortgage rates paralyzed the 2023 housing market. I think that was CBS. The number of homes going on the market in 2023 has dried up. 2023 home prices stubbornly refuse to come down. Fewer affordable homes lead to fewer buyers. That was CNN. Home sales volume dropped sharply in 2023. That was Fox. Painful rent hikes ended in much of the country. That's a hopeful headline, and that one I just got yesterday, as a matter of fact. One of the silver linings we're going to talk about here is rents are starting to stabilize. They are not going up the way they were over the last 3 years, and that is much, much, much needed, especially in California, where we have so much of the homeless problem in the United States has settled at our door. So I don't know because people came here. That's a myth. People think that people move here to become homeless, and I'm sure they do, but the majority of the homeless in California are homegrown. So that should hopefully help a little bit. Not a lot, not enough, but having rent hikes slow down should help. 2024 new home construction stalled. That's to do with permits and a few other things that need to get sorted out in this state and in this country. And then last but not least, housing market climbed to California housing market to climb in value in 2024. So it looks like we may be going up a little bit. So I tell you, why don't we hear from some of our sponsors? Because we like to hear from some of our sponsors, and please listen to the sponsors and come back after the break. And if there's something that our sponsors do that you would like and you would like to employ them for, we would very much appreciate that, because when you support the sponsors, you support the show. So if you got a mortgage to do, please call Sam Chong at the Mortgage Hub. If you got a house to fix up, Omar Ramirez is your guy. Cookies, we recommend DW Cookie. They are fantastic. I ate one before I came in today. They are wonderful, especially around the holidays. They make a fantastic gift. So please help if you got something to do with our sponsors. We'd appreciate it. So let's listen to some of these. When we come back, we'll talk some more. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening. You've reached the Real Estate Fix with Rich on KHTS 98.1 AM 1220, your hometown station. I'm your host, Rich Szerman. Thank you guys for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. We were talking about the year in real estate. We were talking about look back at 2023 and what went wrong. And I'd said before the break, the chief thing that went wrong is not so much something that went wrong, it's just a market reality that so many people out there, and this is a good thing, but it's problematic for a moving market. So many people out there have interest rates that are so low, 85% of every home in the United States right now that has a mortgage, 85% of those people have mortgages at or below 5%. 70% of those people have mortgages at or below 4%. So when the going rate is over 7, heck, if it's over 6.5, we got problems. And that's kind of what's going on. That's why there's so few houses on the market. That's why there's so few buyers out there, although there's still more buyers out there than there are houses available. So what I've been saying for months is that the market is shrinking. And it's sort of a race between supply and demand. And right now, demand is still a little bit higher than supply, but they're finally starting to normalize, as evidenced by the fact that housing prices are going down. And in some places like San Francisco dropped a ton. They're in double digits. I think they dropped about 15%. They rebounded a little, so they're about 12 now. And in our area, we haven't really seen that, but we are starting to see corrections. We are starting to see houses take longer to sell, and we are starting to see houses sell for a little bit less. Now, again, it's not the end of the world. It's not 2008. Housing prices aren't going to drop 50% over the next 16 months or anything crazy like that. But a correction is necessary. A soft one is necessary. Pre-recession, shall we say. And that's where we're at. So what exactly went wrong? Well, mortgage interest rates kept climbing. The higher they went, the more buyers were priced out, especially first-time buyers. Meanwhile, the housing shortage didn't improve as the higher rates resulted in more would-be sellers deciding to stay put and hold on to their low mortgage rates. Exactly what we've been talking about. According to Len Kiefer, no less an authority than Len Kiefer, deputy chief economist at Freddie Mac, higher mortgage rates are the dominant story of the U.S. housing market in 2023. Potential new buyers are coming into a very, very cold market. I wish he wouldn't say things like that, because I think that was true a couple of months ago. I don't think that's true now. And that was a quote from him earlier last week. So he's not wrong. as far as that goes, but it's not as cold a market as it was today as it was yesterday, and it'll be a little bit better tomorrow than it was today. And that's really going to be the story for 2024. I think day by day, week for week, month by month, it's going to get better, but it's gonna take time. It just is. 2025 should be a really good year for real estate, but 2024 is going to be a slog. It's not going to be as bad as 2023, but things will improve. Slowly but surely, but they will. So that's kind of where we're at. So not surprisingly, the number of existing U.S. home sales dropped in 2023 as markets contracted. According to Realtor.com and the National Association of Realtors, national real estate sales volume fell nearly 19.1% from 2023 and about 33.5% through 2021. Now that's the national number. In Santa Clarita, San Fernando, Southern California, that number is between 35 to 40%. And unfortunately, as far as the volume sales, we're taking the brunt of that in the suburban neighborhood. Same is true in Simi Valley, where we're down about 40% on volume, not on price, on volume, different things. Not as many properties being sold, but the ones that are selling for more money. Although, like I said, it is starting to come down a little bit. So northern Los Angeles County, Santa Clarita, and San Fernando Valley in particular, we're down 40% residential real estate sales volume. And this is the capper. This year will have the fewest existing home sales since 1995. And if that is not a sobering number. I remember 1995. I was in real estate in 1995. I was still pretty gray, but not as gray as I am now. And it was rough. It was very, very rough. I think it was actually worse this year. So those are the headlines. That's 2023. Let's talk a little bit about 2024 and where I think 2024 is going to be, and maybe some good news. Because in 2024, the economic forecast that we're getting from just about everybody is that slower economic growth and cooling inflation will bring down mortgage interest rates in the year 2024 and create a more favorable market environment to spur California home sales next year. That's according to the Housing and Economic Forecast of the state of California. The California Association of Realtors, who's always... Well, I like the California Association of Realtors, but they do have a habit of looking on the sunny side of things, as it's kind of in their interest to do so. So keep in mind these numbers are maybe with a little bit of a grain of sand. But CAR predicts the existing home sales for single-family homes to total 327,100 units in 2024, an increase of 22.9% from 2023's projected pace of 260,200 homes. In other words, the CAR expects the volume to go up by about 22.9%. I hope they're right, but keep in mind we're digging out of a 40% trough, so that's still not normality, but at least it'd help. It would cut that down number a bit more than half. California's median home prices forecast to climb 6.2% to $860,300 in 2024, following a projected 1.5% decrease to $8,010 in 2023 from 2022's $822,000 number. In other words, according to CAR, they said there's going to be a decrease of 1.5% this year. I don't remember them saying that, but okay. But they expect it to go up by 6.2% on average over the course of 2024. Also in a report released by the 14th Annual Southern California Economic Summit, economists from across the 6-county region offered a mostly optimistic forecast for the coming year, though they have cautioned that continued inflation and high interest rates will likely slow the rate of growth during the second half of 2024. So they're expecting, slow growth. They expect it to be slower at the second half of the year than the first half. I don't know that I agree, because I think we're going to have lower interest rates by the second half, and that should move things along. I think interest rates are going to weaken a little bit, and I think it'll come down pretty significantly by April. My hope is that by the beginning of the second quarter, by the beginning of April, is that interest rates are actually down under 6%. That is my little prayer, because we get down to about 5.5, or really anything under 6, but 5.5 or lower, and the market will start moving. Until then, a lot of the market's just going to be locked up. It's just going to be frozen. So hopefully that'll start to happen. And it is starting, like I said, it's starting to happen a little bit, starting to decrease. The freeze is starting to thaw out a bit. So let's see. According to a new Realtor.com forecast, mortgage rates should start to slow, and if not decline in 2024, a welcome decline. In fact, new research from Realtor.com, even faced with a challenging home buying landscape, almost half of first-time home buyers, that's 49%, think buying is a better option than renting in 2020. Who's the 51% who don't think that buying is better? This is what worries me in the state of California. We've got this idea in California, and the state has fed into it with a lot of these restrictive tenant rules and eviction rules and things. It's just insane. That you should somehow be a permanent renter. What California is doing in this state is creating a permanent renter class. And there's always been that. But since the 1970s, the ownership numbers in California have been dropping. The number of people, the percentage of people who own properties in California versus those who rent, that percentage has been dropping over the last 50 years, and it keeps getting worse, and the state makes it worse. What the state needs to do is incentivize buying. Not incentivize keeping renters in a property forever. What they're doing is wiping out mom and pop landlords and giving it all to the corporate landlords, and they're doing it unintentionally, and they're doing it wrong. I will put it to you this way. You do not solve a supply problem, i.e. homelessness, by retarding supply. That makes no sense, except to the state of California. Does that make any sense? Because what you're doing with small landlords is you're saying, if you're a small landlord, you are stuck with this new set of laws, and it doesn't matter that you have a lease or not. A lease could be 6 months long, it could be a year long, doesn't matter, it could be 5 years long. You got a lease forever. Because unless that tenant does something wrong, you can't throw them out. And that's insane. And what that is doing is it's taking all kinds of mom and pop landlords who used to be the majority in this state, who are not anymore. Most homes in the United States that are rentals are corporate landlords. And I'm not talking about apartments. I'm talking about single-family homes and condos. They are owned by corporate entities. They are not owned by mom and pop landlords, and we are going to pay the price for that. It's only making homelessness worse. So again, you're forcing mom and pop landlords out of the market. And what you're doing is you are trying to attack a supply problem by limiting supply. And I don't know about you, but that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Only politicians would think that's a good idea. And it's a reactive thing. Cities think they're going to keep people in houses, and that's a solution. That's a solution for the next 10 minutes. It is not a solution for the next 10 years. And those kind of solutions, or those kind of ideas towards solutions, I wouldn't even call them solutions, are what has led to the problem we have now. California has more homelessness per capita than any other state. And there's a reason for that. And I'm not saying other states do it that much better than we do. I think everybody in the country is doing it badly. But you do not fix what is ultimately a supply problem, not enough housing, by retarding supply. But here we are. Such is the story of 2023. Hopefully in 2024 they'll get smarter. I doubt on that scope we will. But let's talk about some things that I can point to that are good news. Let's talk about some good news. Inflation has slowed to 3.1% annually. So that's pretty good. Now the Fed's target is still 2%, but it's still pretty good. Retail sales were up in November by 0.3%. Now that's not a lot, but everyone was saying it was going to be down. So we'll see December, because that's the big buying month, obviously. But I think retail sales are going to be up a little bit in December. And I don't mean up overall. I mean up versus the predictions, because the predictions for recession have been everywhere. And I do think we're going to have a recession. I think in a lot of ways we're already in a recession. We're certainly in a recession for realtors and for the real estate market. But we may get our heads out of this without too much trouble. So we'll see. So yeah, retail sales are up a little bit in November, which is unexpected. Employment is even lower than we thought it would be at this point, so that's good. Just yesterday, just earlier this week, the Dow surged to a record high. And it surged to that high based on news from the Fed. The Fed appears to not going to raise interest. I thought for sure, I would have bet my bottom dollar that the Fed was going to raise the interest rate again before the end of the year. I thought for sure they were going to do that. And I am thrilled to report to you that they've decided not only are they not doing that, not only are they starting to back off their 3% need for inflation, because they're trying to get down to 2%, but it looks like they're going to pull up a little bit, even though we're only at 3% inflation. And they've signaled that not only are they not going to raise the rate before the end of the year, looks like they're going to cut it probably 3 times over the next year. Now, it'll probably be a quarter point per, and that might be enough to spur the market, but quarter point per, 3/4 of a point overall. So we'll have to see what happens, and obviously there's a lot between here and there. The markets can change, but so far so good. I'm going to call that a little bit of a Christmas miracle. So thank you economy, and thank you Fed. The cost of everything is starting to come back down. The cost of gas is back down. I'm sure those of you guys who do that regularly notice. I do. The cost of eggs has come back down. The cost of bacon has come back down a little bit. So still high, but lower than it was. So at least we're on the right track. So I think that's going to be the story of 2024. I really do. It's not as bad as 2023, and at least we feel like we're on the right track. We're not there yet, but at least it's getting better. I expect January to be better than December. I expect February to be better than January, and so on and so forth. Just a tiny bit. That's all it needs to do, is just to defrost a little bit. And I hope by the end of the year we'll actually be, some sort of normalcy, because we are not out of the pandemic economy. We really aren't. And I'm hoping by the end of 2024 we will be. So yeah, I'm not always right about everything. I'm right about most things, and I'm certainly right a lot more than I am wrong. And I'm right about real estate a lot more than most people So I'll stick by that. But I would have bet my bottom dollar they were going to go ahead and raise the rate one more time before the end of the year, and they've chosen not to do that because we got some really good inflation numbers. And so that has been super, super helpful. So that's the year 2023. That's where I think we're going in 2024. It's a lot of news, but basically the upshot is 2023 was an awful year in real estate if you're actually in the business. It wasn't an awful year if you had a house to sell, but it was an awful year if you had a house to buy. So I keep saying this: if you had a house to sell and you don't have one to buy, this was your market. You were doing fabulous. People who had to buy a house if they were selling one, not so much, and they weren't selling as a result. People who work in real estate obviously suffering like crazy. So I think things are going to start to get better. I really do. I'm not an optimistic guy when it comes to the real estate markets, but in general, I think 2024 is going to be a pretty good year. I think we're going to do a lot better in 2024 than we did in 2023. And I mean across the board. I think prices are going to stabilize. I think the economy is going to get back to normal. Hopefully, the interest rate will get under 6% by the second quarter. We're all sort of hoping. Maybe that's a little aggressive, but we're hoping about it. So I think we're going to be okay. Now, in addition to the sort of year in review for real estate market in general, in addition to for our area, I'd also like to do a little bit of a year in review for my office because we do some strange things in my office as far as real estate is concerned. We do some special things in my office as far as real estate is concerned. And those of you who know me or those of you who listen regularly know what I'm talking about. And we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show today. We have a lot of stuff that we do to keep people out of foreclosure. I've been fighting foreclosures because foreclosures just should never happen. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for the bank. It's bad for the consumer. It's bad for the neighborhood. It's bad for everybody. So with a little bit of forethought, you can usually prevent them most of the time. Doesn't mean you can always save the house, so that's what we try to do. And we save the house about 80% of the time. So I think our ratios are pretty good there. We certainly win a whole lot more than we lose. But I wanted to tell you a couple of stories. I wanted to tell you 4 stories out of my office because we'll go through them fairly quickly because we're running a show here. But I wanted to go over them just sort of as an exemplar of the kind of thing that we do and the kind of thing you can achieve in real estate to beat the market, to beat the curve. The first I'm going to tell you, some of these I'll use the real name, some I won't. But the first I'm going to talk about is the Sheehy story. And John Sheehy's a longtime client. He's been on the show with me earlier in the year. He's a local artist and just a lovely, lovely guy. Earlier this year, his house on Rhododendron, I'm only giving you the street name so you can look it up. On Rhododendron, he was about to head into foreclosure. Mortgage wasn't getting paid. House was in disrepair. An exact house across the street had just sold. And because that house had sold for $745, they valued his house. Everybody kind of valued his house at $745. And he talked to a couple of different realtors before he talked to me, just to get a feel for the market, I'm sure. But anyway, before he talked to me, all realtors are territorial. That's just who we are. We work on commission. That's why it works that way. But anyway, and everyone told him his house was $745 because the one across the street, which is nicer than your house, in better shape than your house, with a better view, identical model, sold for $745. So ergo, yours should sell for that too. And I took a look at the numbers and I had a different read on it. I said, I think we can do better. As a matter of fact, I think we can get over 800,000. And everybody in the business who I know, I said that to John and I told people about it, thought I was a little crazy. And I am a little crazy. I'll point to that. I do things. I charge the occasional windmill, that's for sure. But here's the thing. We sold his house. We put a little bit of money into his house, and we sold it for $815,000. Now that's $70,000 more than his neighbor sold his house for. So I'm going to say we were right, and all the rest of the doubters were wrong. And the point is, we have a program called the Resale Renovation Program, where we will literally put money into your house to sell it. You don't pay it back. It is literally free money. And in John's case, I don't remember how much we put in his house. It wasn't a whole heck of a lot. We did some painting. We did some carpet. We cleaned up the pool. We cleaned up the yard. Basic stuff just to make the house look better, present better. All just maintenance stuff that anyone who buys that house is going to have to do anyway. But because we cleaned it up, the house showed a lot better. As a result, he sold it for $815,000. That beats the heck out of selling for $745. And I'm sure any of you in that position would much rather sell your house for $815 than $745. And nothing against the realtor who sold the house across the street. I'm just better than he is. That's the reality. I just know more about what I'm doing. I'm willing to do more of this. And we do more for clients than typical realtors do. And as a result, we get better results. If you want typical results, then do typical stuff. If you want extraordinary results, then you have to do extraordinary stuff. And it's just kind of that simple. So by doing a little bit of the extraordinary for the Sheehys, they got an extra 70 grand out of their house. And I know for a fact they're very happy about that. Who wouldn't be? So I've got some more stories I want to tell you guys. I love telling you guys stories, including one I really want to touch on before we leave because it's current and I need your guys' help. You've heard me talk about it before. And the station had a fabulous write-up on it that I want to talk about a little bit too when we get back. So one more break. Let's hear from the sponsors one more time. And when we get back, I'll tell you some more real estate stories from my office. All of these are helpful. They're all ending well. One is in process now that I could use your help for. And 2024 is going to be a good year. So hang in there. It's going to be a good ride. Thank you guys for listening. I'm Rich Szerman on KHTS 98.1 FM, AM 1220, your hometown station. Here you have. Hello. Hi, guys. Thank you for listening. You've reached the Real Estate Fix. I'm your host, Rich Szerman on KHTS 98.1 AM 1220, your hometown station. Sorry if I was a little slow on the pickup there. We were having some fun in the booth. Anyway, we're talking about stories in my office and some of the stuff that we do to kind of illustrate and some of the victories you've had this year. This is sort of our year in review. We've had a lot more than 4 clients, obviously. We've helped a lot more than 4 people. But I did want to tell you these stories because these are so emblematic of what we do and the kind of stuff you can do, with or without my help, without my office's help. These are the kind of things you can do. We were talking about the Sheehy story and how we sold their house for a whole lot more money just by putting a little bit of money into it. Basic curb appeal type stuff. The house itself was in pretty good shape. It just needed to be polished up a little bit. So we polished it up and we sold it for $70,000 more than the house across the street. That was pretty good. Let's talk about Beverly Fox. And again, I'm using her name because the station was good enough to do a story. And with the news department's and Jade and Menchie's help, we got a heck of a story going on Beverly Fox. If you guys remember, this was about 4 or 5 months ago. Beverly Fox is 90. She was about to turn 91. Beverly, if you're listening, happy birthday again. I know it was a few months ago. We still have to, you're 91. We can wish you happy birthday on a daily basis. Anyway, in her case, she was in foreclosure. She was being ripped off by a company called PHH, an awful, awful bank. They run a reverse mortgage scam that's very similar to, a lot of banks do this. Carrington does this. They're an offender, PHH. Reverse mortgages, what they do is, in Beverly's case, and this is very common, they decided she was dead. They sent her a letter in the mail when they took over the loan. She did not have PHH initially, so she didn't know who the heck these people were. They sent her a letter saying, please tell us you're alive. And because she didn't know who they were and didn't know she had to respond because the law says you have to, or at least you're supposed to be alive, I suppose is what the law says, so you have to respond. But anyway, she didn't respond. So PHH took it upon themselves, despite the fact they're supposed to send people out to the house, which they didn't do, and despite the fact there are all these other things you're supposed to do to avoid exactly the scenario, they didn't. And they went ahead and put her in foreclosure. And when they found out she was alive, they were nice enough to take her out of foreclosure, as they often do. However, they had rolled up about $7,000 or $8,000 in erroneous fees. So here's how the scam works. If you got a reverse mortgage, they say you're in foreclosure, then you say, no, I'm not, I'm alive. They say, okay, good, you're out of foreclosure. Or you don't pay your taxes or insurance, they put you in foreclosure over that, you prove it's paid, or you catch up, or whatever it is. The point is, once they put you into foreclosure, without really disclosing it, as they should in my view, they roll up anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 in additional fees. When you quote unquote come out of foreclosure, because it is a reverse mortgage, all they do is they tack that on to what you already owe when the house gets sold, when the person dies or moves out, and the house sells. Now, if you're dealing with the death of a loved one, you're not going to notice that there was an additional $10,000 in fees on grandma's mortgage. You're just going to pay it and sell the house or do whatever you need to do because you're dealing with the death of a family member. So that's why it's particularly insidious. And I figured this out pretty quickly by going through the accounting, and I said, no. She wasn't supposed to be in foreclosure to begin with. How dare you charge her foreclosure fees? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sherman, that's just our standard. I don't care if it's your standard. It's unethical, it's immoral, and also, guys, illegal. You cannot fail to meet your responsibilities as a bank and then charge somebody else because you failed to meet your responsibilities. It doesn't work that way. So after the story ran on KHTS, and thank you again to the news division for doing this, news department for doing this, completely of their own, according to PHH, completely on their own, having nothing to do with the story, but curiously, 48 hours after we sent them a copy of the story, they just decided to reverse 94% of the erroneous fees. I would have liked to have got the other 6% out of there, but we were down to a couple $100 and it felt like, all right, fine, it's a victory. We'll call it a victory and take a lap. And that was Beverly's story. So you got to be careful with these things. And if you think there's something weird going on, call me. You can reach me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 661-714-1400. That is my personal cell phone number. You can reach me at that literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If I don't answer, send me a text. And maybe you just got a feeling about it. Maybe you just want to take a look at grandma's loan and make sure it's being handled correctly. Because here's the telling stat in that story. The 10% of all reverse mortgages at some time in their life are in foreclosure. 10%. Contrast that with regular mortgages, conventional mortgages, that number is less than 3%. Why do reverse mortgages go into foreclosure so rapidly? Why are there so many? And how is it the banks are profiting from that? That's the question. But we got it fixed. Beverly's in good shape. She's getting her checks again. She's out of foreclosure, and they got rid of most of the fees. So we're good. We've got half a dozen of those now that we're working on. Let's talk about another one. House was $44,000 past due and in foreclosure. Her name's Sally. Was behind quite a bit in foreclosure. We got her into the California Mortgage Relief Program. They paid her past due amount for free. It cost her absolutely nothing. This is a wonderful program run by HAFA. We promote it like crazy. We even had the president of HAFA on the air earlier this year. It is a great program. The California got $1 billion from the American Rescue Plan, $1 billion with a B, to give directly to homeowners to get them out of foreclosure. We've done a lot with that. I think in my office, we've got about $10 million we've managed to spend of their money. Thank you very much, California Mortgage Relief Program, because we're using it to get people out of foreclosure. And again, it's free. Not only did they pay $44,000 of her past due debt, but now we're working with them to get an additional $36,000, because the program maxes out at $80,000, an additional $36,000 to pay a bunch of her deferred. So even if you have a deferred, like let's say during the pandemic, you had a deferred amount, you were in a forbearance and it got deferred, they'll pay that too. You don't have to be behind on your mortgage. It could just be a deferred amount that you're getting rid of. And so she's going to come out ahead $80,000 just by talking to us, just by us helping her get through that program. We got her $80,000 in government money that she does not have to pay back. Literally $80,000 in free money. Well, in fairness, we got her 44 and we're still looking for the other 36, but we have it done the next 30 days. We know that she's going to get accepted. We've already talked about it. So that's the kind of stuff you can do. So simply because Sally was good enough to give us a call, we got her into the program, got her out of foreclosure, and she was about to lose the house. Now she's in no danger of that. She's out of foreclosure. And we're going to get an additional $36,000 to pay a deferred amount that she's got. So when the time comes for her to sell the house, whenever that is, she'll owe $80,000 less on that house than she otherwise would have owed. Thank you, California. Thank you, federal government. Appreciate that a lot. These are the kind of things we can do. We can get you out of foreclosure and you don't have to pay the money back. What's better than that? So that's a pretty good story. So that's our third story. Let's talk about the fourth one, and this is the biggest one to me at the moment, because this is a current story and it's important, and I need your help. I need you guys to help us out. Those of you guys who are on the news feed with KHTS, you should be. It's a great feed. The news department here does a fantastic job. And the title of the story is, I have it here next to me, Grinch Mortgage Company set to take ALS-stricken veterans home unless Christmas debt deadline met. And this is a story of Sean and Marty Howard. Marty Howard was on with us 2 weeks ago. Last week I was off last week. I wasn't on the air last week because I was with the Howards. We were doing this story because it's important. Sean Howard is an honorably retired U.S. Marine, and he's suffering from ALS. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a cruel, cruel disease because it leaves you, your mental capacity is fine. It leaves you trapped in your own body. You literally could feel and everything else. Your muscles atrophy, and it's rough. And if you've had anybody go through that, if you know anybody go through it, it's just as bad as it gets. It's just a cruel thing that humans suffer from. But Sean is a Marine. He's suffering from ALS, and he's in foreclosure from a completely unscrupulous zombie second. SLS, Specialized Loan Servicing, is just a horrible company. They're just awful. And what they've done is they're foreclosing on this honorably discharged Marine because they had a zombie second. A zombie second is a loan that's gone fallow, that hasn't been touched, and this one hasn't been touched in over a decade, that suddenly comes back at full volume trying to go after you for every dime that's owed, including all the back due payments and everything else. They're looking for $500,000 from them, and they're not going to get it. The house doesn't have the equity in it. The house has maybe, at best possible case, maybe $150,000 in equity, and as a foreclosure sale, a lot less than that. So maybe SLS gets 50 grand out of this. Maybe. I think they get nothing. But what they will do is throw the Howards out into the street. So I need your help. Please go to KHTS.com, or you can see this on YouTube. You can see it all over the place. Grinch Mortgage Company set to take ALS-stricken veterans home unless Christmas deadline is met. They're demanding $63,000 from them by Christmas that are foreclosing on their house. And we need the views and we need the likes that they won't do it. So go, please, see that article, like it, click on the thing, watch the thing, call your local politicians, call SLS, we'll give you the number, and tell them they suck and they shouldn't do this. We need your help. We're going to get them out of this. We're going to save this house. I promise you we're going to do that. But boy, I could use your help. So yeah, please look at the article. Grinch Mortgage Company set to take ALS-stricken veterans home unless Christmas debt met. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. I'm Rich. This has been the Real Estate Fix with Rich. I love talking to you guys. I love it that you listen. I'll be back next week with another show. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy 2023. And my goodness, I can't wait to get to 2024. Be good humans. Have a good week.